everyone, and welcome to SciShow Tangents, the lightly competitive science knowledge showcase. I'm your host, Hank Green, and joining this week, as always, representing Team Tangents, we have our science expert, Sari Riley.
Hello.
And our resident everyman, Sam Schultz.
What up?
But weirdly, entering the ring, we have the hosts of a new podcast from the independent news company Canadaland, Field Guide to Gay Animals, the show that explores sexuality, gender, and joy in the animal world. Cheeky and contemplative, curious and raunchy, Field Guide shows you the natural world more exuberant, more joyful, and more gay than you could possibly imagine. And on Team Field Guide to Gay Animals, we've got Owen Ever.
Hello, everyone.
And we've got Laine Kaplan-Levenson.
Hi.
So I just want to know this is my kickoff question, and it's unrelated, but I've been curious. I've been wanting to hear it from these guys. Just tell me a time you were pooped on.
Okay, well, 2020. I had to do a quick scan to be like, what can I say that is like nearly appropriate for this?
I've definitely pooped on my own self some like more than once. I have ulcerative colitis, but I'm not counting self poops.
Yeah. Okay, so not counting self poops, trying to stay within the realm of animals. Mm-hmm. It was 2020, Carnival. I live in New Orleans. Carnival had been canceled. And I was walking down the street, admiring the streetcar. It was like very cliche. And there was a barren tree full of Mardi Gras beads, which happens. And I was just looking up at it wistfully, like longingly, yearning like I do. And then all of a sudden I got shot all over by a flock of cedar waxwings.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. And then I fell in love with them. And their poop is bright purple because of their like propensity to eat berries and get drunk. Yeah. And so I realized like our revelry may have been tampered that year, but like the animals were still doing it.
They were having a great time. An even better time, perhaps.
Well, they were like pooping on humans, you know?
So. You thought they were Mardi Gras beats. Maybe it was just a bunch of poop up there.
Yeah. Might have been.
So did multiple birds poop on you at once?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if they timed it or maybe because they had all eaten together, so they had synced up, but it was just
maybe
like...
you scared them. Did you scare them?
I like to think that I have like a very calming presence among animals. So maybe I didn't scare them, but I might have like excited them in some way. Maybe they were like, oh, Owen is here. Finally.
I know what.
They unclenched their cloacas.
Exactly. They're like, do we have a gay birder, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah. It's a sign of respect. It's just like a reframing in our mind we have to do.
Yeah.
Laine, have you been pooped on?
Well, I mean, I will say, no, we were kind of, potentially straying from humans. This is hybrid. I guess it is human, but mine is tiny.
Was it a minotaur?
Human. Well, mine's tiny human. I have been pooped on most recently by babies. Not my own, but little nibblings and friends' babies. It has happened more than once in the past year, I'd say. I think that the terminology is called a blowout, they say. Which is really evocative.
Sometimes I have those as a grown-up, and I'm like, boy, if I had a diaper on right now, this would have been a problem.
The diaper does not contain the blowout. The parents have things to deal with the baby, a change of clothes for the baby, but they don't have things to like help you.
No change of clothes for the guest.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And you're like, well, now I have to go home, and now like I have to deal with this.
No, what the parent knows is that if you get a little baby poop on your hands, you just wipe it on your pants, and that's fine. That's allowed. I don't know why it's allowed, but it's allowed.
Exactly. You have some Purell, you move on.
You gotta start toting around some sweatpants, though. Some full-size sweatpants.
Yeah, your little bindle stiff. Oh, that's my blowout clothes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every week here on SciShow Tangents, we get together to try to one-up, amaze, and delight each other with science facts while also trying to stay on topic. But I'm not helping out with that at all. Our teams today are playing for glory, but also they're playing for imaginary currency called Hank Bucks, which I will award as we play. And at the end of the episode, one of the teams will be crowned the winner. But first, we must introduce this week's topic with the traditional science poem, this week from Owen.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. I have to say, at first, I bemoaned it a little bit because I
like
the homework of it all. And then it was like, I love, I mean, to be able to talk about the joys of gay animal sex, like, it flowed out of me. I had like a poetic blowout. You know what I mean? Okay, so here's my poem for you all. My envy for bottlenose dolphin goosing, I'm willing to admit, when one male presses his beak into another's anterior genital slit. He'll whistle, blow bubbles, and push his mate through the ocean in a thrilling love act known as genital beak propulsion. Male baboons will diddle, they diddle indeed, which is just anal fingering, and they do it with glee. About male giraffe necking, I ask, fellas, is it gay to explore all your bros' bodies without any jealousy? Now, female koalas will mount each other reciprocally and show signs of intense arousal unequivocally. She'll throw back her head and let out a copulatory bellow, a sex sound that can only be described as a combination of rasping, growling, wheezing, grunting, rumbling, and braying that consists of a long series of indrawn snore-like breaths alternating with exalted belch-like sounds performed a cappella. Spinner dolphins love polyadic orgies in what is technically called a wuzzle, a term coined by marine biologists who said, yeah, that looks like a wuzzle. Horny pronghorns post-rump sniff perform conga line mounting, while sex-scented musk oxen kick forelegs, astounding. Male harbor seals will synchronously spiral with erection in a pair-rolling affair that is full of affection. Bonobos love genital rubbing, and they'll do it all day. Bonobos in general are just really gay. There's geckering, yip-purring, and rear-end flirtations, song dancing, vacuum slurping, a whole glossary of sensations. So when it comes to love languages, I hope that you've gleaned some exciting new possibilities from our animal queendom. The end.
I mean, I had several things that I Googled during that poem.
Great. We love to inspire research.
You wrote a whole book. You're ready to publish that thing.
Yeah, let's go. Great. Let's go. This is a bonus episode for us.
So the topic for this week is gay animals. But before we dive in and have Sari define the topic, which I'm excited about, we're going to take a short break. Then it'll be time to define the topic. Sari, what's a gay animal?
You know?
You're looking at one, kid.
Yeah, there we go. Humans are animals, and Sari Riley is bisexual. Therefore, we got a couple in the room right now. Uh-huh. I was actually going to punt it back over to our guests, who are the experts here. Ooh. I do have research that I'm willing to jump in on, but I'm curious because you have a whole podcast about gay animals. How are you defining the boundaries of gay animal? Because it is a pretty broad term that you won't necessarily find in a scientific paper. You'll find it in articles or like science communicators talking about it because it's really accessible. Like you see the word gay animal and you're like, I know the vibes of that, but it's not necessarily, you won't find it published in literature.
I mean, that is such a good question. I would say for us, in making this podcast, we are looking at a lot of different observed behaviors that are same sex. So not just mounting and mating, but also courtship behaviors, parental behaviors, pair bonding. All of these things fall into the category for us of what is a gay behavior among mammals. And it's difficult to determine the frequency of this, though I will say there's a lot of species that do it. 1,500 species have been documented to some extent. The frequency ranges among species. Some it's like there's gender parity and you see like both sexes having a lot of same-sex behavior, like carnivores and marsupials and waterfowl. And some it's primarily the males of the species, like giraffes. And so it's like hard to even see because it's just so abundant. Sometimes it's very seasonal, like bighorn sheep spend large amounts of times in sex segregated herds, having just copious amounts of sex within those herds. So sometimes it's easier to see, sometimes it's harder to see. One thing we discovered a lot is scientists have a difficulty identifying same-sex behavior, especially sexual behavior, among monomorphic species, because there's sort of a bias that if you see two animals having sex, the one that is like topping, quote unquote, is just automatically the male and the receptive one is the female. So like pigeons, for example, have a lot of same-sex sexual behavior, but it's hard to see that in the human eye. So we're looking at all of these things and also looking at ourselves as well and trying to find sort of reflections of kinship among behaviors and community forming, alternative lifestyle forming, just things that we can sort of map our experiences on.
It makes sense that this would not be one of the ones that's going to be a real sharp line.
Yeah. And we don't want it to be, right?
No. I mean, you'd be shocked. Sometimes we have a topic we think this is going to be very easy to define. By the end of it, we have no idea like what wood is.
Yes, right.
Right. And in a lot of ways, it's funny because, Sari, what you said in the beginning, almost as a joke, that is also how we're defining it. Like Owen and I, throughout the whole series, it's like we refer to ourselves as gay animals because we are. Like that is very much part of this definition and kind of embracing and pushing back at the same time any sort of like official or technical or limited terminology or hardline way of understanding it. And as Owen was saying, really, really going beyond understanding it as in a way that is just through the lens of how animals are having sex and seeing how animals are going about their existences and lives through family structures, through social structures, in the way that, humans are starting to understand and define this concept of queerness is how we've been in some ways approaching this idea of a gay animal.
Do you feel like it overlaps, or have you explored ways in which, so not only talking about these same-sex sexual behaviors or non-sexual behaviors, but also like intersex phenotypes or other ways that animals defy the gender binary, things like that?
That's touched on for sure. I mean, we've specifically in the last episode, we get into, different species that will change sex over the course of their lives and, seeing that as a type of queerness or, a gay animal. And like this idea of transness in animal species and like the different ways that can be interpreted. So that's definitely a part of it.
I mean, that's basically all I had written down. All of you, it's like you're the experts or something like that on these things.
I appreciate what you said about it being difficult to come across, and that it was something that we've been experiencing as well. We do have sort of a sacred text that we have been working with. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the book Biological Exuberance by Bruce Bagamel. That was published in 1999 and was really groundbreaking in the sense that he pulled together from margins of many different scientific studies, small amounts of gay animal documented, observed, like distribution of gay animal, and sort of put it all together. And that was really huge. And so that book is sort of having a renaissance as many people are starting to reference it, as we're getting a lot more books published, like Animal Homosexuality, which was edited by Paul Vassie, which looked at existing field sites that had large amounts of data already. dolphins, bison, flamingos.
Yeah.
So it is something where it's like, it's very scattered because it's often not a priority for the people who are looking. And especially with male sexual behavior, it's so often just seen as like about dominance or aggression or purely serving a social function, which it is, but also sex serves a social function for humans as well.
Yeah, when you said that there is like 1,500 or something species documented, I was like, who dug up papers and dug and was like counting every single one?
Yeah,
it sounds
it's
like
exhaustive.
There have been some people doing it. Yeah.
And I think one thing to think about, or that I was thinking about as researching this topic, is also how tricky it is that we have like us as human animals and then also a range of non-human animals with behaviors and experiences and instincts that are so radically different. I think this is also a hard topic to talk about because when you use accessible terms like, oh, these are gay dolphins or like lesbian albatrosses or bisexual bison or things like that, then people tend to anthropomorphize and they project human social dynamics or human feelings onto these animals, when really using these more clinical language that you see in studies like same-sex sexual behaviors or same-sex interactions, I think tries to create this distance intentionally between what humans are doing, how humans are relating to each other sexually or non-sexually in same-sex relationships, and what animals are doing, because it gets really fraught when you start to layer on intention or right and wrong or morality. Studying animal sex can be a really useful tool for humans to understand ourselves. And there's this like idea that queerness is natural. We see it all around us, so that therefore it's natural in humans too. But also there's a level of caution that you want to use as science communicators, as scientists, when you're looking at animals and you don't want to say a dolphin shoving its blowhole in a slit is morally wrong if he doesn't ask permission first, because dolphins are operating along a whole other code of being than like human social norms.
Even if you just say same sex, like people like we have all this baggage that we carry into it. And so it's, you want to try to not do that, or you might actually do want to celebrate it and be like, oh my God, the world is so weird. Like the idea that we have that like, okay, here's the whole purpose of everything is, and like genetically, yes, the purpose of everything is to make offspring, but there are many purposes that are laid on top of that purpose. And we do not understand them. We do not understand them for ourselves, let alone for every species on Earth, of which there are many, and they're all doing wild things. And it is like, the complexity just makes me love the planet. It's just a good planet.
Yeah, that exactly. I think that Laine and I are both coming from a place where we are enthusiasts. And so we're sort of unabashedly celebrating an opportunity to explore an expansive understanding of nature. And so it is fun to be in conversation with scientists who will pull back a lot and be very technical in their descriptions for many reasons. And some of them is because they really love these animals and they don't want to have like stigma or shame projected onto them, which we do, as well as not wanting to be like, oh, these are just gay animals and therefore like we've figured them out, we've defined them. I think a place that we get to, or we strive to get to in our podcast, is to understand that there's a queer way of knowing that is about not knowing, that is about recognizing that animals have a capacity for pleasure that we'll never really understand because we are our own distinct species. And we just sort of have to recognize that the world is out there and it's doing things, and there's mystery and there's utility to wonder and to like being in the world and like seeking yourself in it, but also just allowing animals to be animals. And we're like, gay animals are, they don't need to come out as anything. They're just animals doing their thing. But also, we're up against a legacy of closeting of gay animals, because even though scientists claim this objectivity, there is a lot of actual like homophobia written into the document, and a lot of like active deletion and omission of these observations because they simply don't want to talk about anything that would veer into homosexuality.
Like we've been observing animals for a long time, and that bias has been there the whole time, and it was stronger in the past. And you don't want to not get your article published because people are like, I can't put same-sex animal couples in the journal. Like that's like, and it's like, why? We can't. Don't stop asking. For obvious reasons that we are not going to say out loud.
Yeah. And that has been, that was happening, a long time ago, but it also still happens. It is actually something that is still, a thing that scientists think about when it comes to their careers, when it comes to how they'll be perceived, when it comes to whether they'll be taken seriously, when it comes to whether they'll be shoehorned into just being the scientist that is just like the gay animal scientist versus like the marine biologist scientist, So it was really interesting to talk to scientists and learn that that's actually like a paranoia that they have. And it's maybe no longer like, oh, I'm going to then be perceived as a homosexual myself, which was maybe something that they were more concerned about 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. I mean, maybe that's something that still comes up sometimes, but it's much more concern for their careers and for how they're going to be perceived and taken seriously and get a promotion and all of those types of things. Like that's still on people's minds, which was fascinating to discover. And something that I just wanted to go back to really quickly that came up, we talked about this all the time with people that we interviewed when it came to this idea of, homosexuality and queerness as something that is in fact fundamental in nature as opposed to an aberration. And that's, I think, what we're starting to shift in some of the conversations we've been having with people as saying this is fundamental and there are reasons actually for things like why certain species have sex with no intent to reproduce, for instance, as opposed to saying sometimes animals have sex and there's no intention to reproduce, but we have no idea why.
Well, Laine, can I propose a solution to this problem? And it's that animals are also horny.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, it is time to move on to the quiz portion of our show. This week, we're going to be doing a Gay Animals Truth or Fail Express. One of the big lessons of biology is that trying to create categories is useful until it's not anymore. For example, many people try and cram biological sex into a binary, but humans are just one animal among many that reveal that rigid categorization will inevitably fail to capture just how diverse everything in nature and our bodies are. So today, we're going to be playing Truth or Fail Express, all about ways that nature defies the idea of a sex binary. I will tell you a story, but it's up to you to figure out if it is true or not true.
Yes, Dad.
There is there is a shrimp. It's called the Hippolyte inermis, as far as I can tell. It's a sequential hermaphroditic species where newborn shrimp that are born female can rapidly switch to becoming male. Scientists have noted that this switch peaks in the fall when populations of fish predators also peak, leading researchers to hypothesize that the shrimp make this switch to limit reproduction during unfavorable circumstances.
Ooh.
Is that true or false?
The only thing I know about sequential hermaphrodism is that clownfish are this way because everyone, it's like the Finding Nemo fact that after Nemo's mom died, then his dad would have transitioned into his mom.
A new mom.
Become the new mom. Yeah. So why not shrimp?
and I love shrimp. And I'm non-binary, so therefore you are what you eat. So I think it's true.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I want it to be true. So the question is like, is it if I want it to be?
I think you've nailed how we play these games, Owen. Like that's the logic behind it is you just you go with your heart.
And is there really any reason for Laine not to pick false? Because that's really, playing a game, right? You're going to get points either way.
Okay. Ding, ding, ding. You've tapped into our host dynamic.
just battle
it's
it
just
out.
Going, nuh-uh, the whole podcast.
I'm going to also say true.
I'm going to say false because I don't understand the eating, the reducing instances of mating around fish eating or whatever.
Yeah.
Fish will eat
But there could be
whatever
something about like the pheromones they put out that could attract.
As well.
Garter snakes will change. They'll do biomimicry, and
true.
I think it changes. Like it's about predation and about wanting a gay sex orgy. If having gay sex saves you from getting eaten, like
sure.
Okay. Anyway, is that a tangent? Did I do it?
So what I can tell you is that the fact is false. They are indeed a sequential hermaphroditic species, but instead of starting as female and switching to male, they start as male and they switch to female. And unlike other hermaphroditic crustaceans, this shrimp makes the transition really quite quickly and doesn't go through an intermediate stage where it has like attributes of both male and female shrimp. And it happens in part triggered by their diet, which is a specific kind of like single-celled organism called a diatom. And that usually thrives in the spring, but shrimp born in the fall are born male, and in the spring they go through a molt where the male gonads just go away and ovary forms. Meanwhile, shrimp born in the spring will make the transition even more rapidly. It might be a way to sync up reproduction with the prevalence of food. So if there's a bunch of food around, you have more energy where you can do, and it's hard, it's like very energy intensive to make babies.
Opposite of what you
Wow,
said.
that was tricky.
And you're never going to know. No one knows the facts. Unless sometimes, very rarely, someone will know the fact and it's like upsetting.
Exactly the fact. And it's kind of scary.
Round number 2, there's a nudibranch called Chromodorus reticulata, and it is a simultaneous hermaphrodite, meaning that it has both male and female sex organs. Scientists have found that after mating, Chromodorus reticulata will get rid of their penis and replace it as a part of a strategy to remove competitors' sperm from their mate's organs.
So what do they replace it with? Like a vacuum?
I don't know why they would do that.
I don't understand. I don't understand.
Or did they grow a new second penis, a fresh one? A freshie?
I think they might they might have to grow a fresh penis.
Well, I feel thoroughly boggled by this.
I mean, it's so confusing. It's got to be true. That's how I stand for that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell the Voki's talking about, so why not?
I feel like little wormy guys, slugs, snails, worms, all got lots of bits all at once.
And they love
because you got to take advantage of, you see another creature, you're going to sexually reproduce. So I'm going to say true also.
I mean, I have no idea what was said.
Yeah, I'm saying true because I just want to lean into the mystery of it all.
It's true.
Can we get trues across the board?
Yes. Now, what is it?
Everybody's correct.
All right.
Okay. So they are simultaneous hermaphrodites, and they wanted to see. And they're like pretty. Like this is often a simultaneous hermaphrodism is often a thing where there's not many individuals in a species because, like, you might run across a male, but never anybody else. And so you're going to want to breed with whoever you happen to run across. But in this case, there's actually lots of them. So they wanted to know what the heck was going on. So they looked and they watched 31 copulations and found that after mating, the nudibranch would discard the extended part of their penis. But it turned out that they still had a longer coiled penis internally to replenish from. So the nudibranch could then mate again after about a day. And they found that sperm masses on the discarded penises contained alleles for their previous partners, like their ex's ex. So they think that they might be using their removable penis as a way to scrape sperm out of their partner. There's like a special penis that's for removing sperm, and then another second penis.
They have like a fruit by the foot of
Yeah. I was thinking like one of those weed whackers that you just like extend the plastic, like it chips off, but then you got more penis.
It's just a scrub daddy. That's what that is.
Yeah.
And you just dispose of it. It makes sense. Now it makes sense.
All right. Good job, everyone. Our final round. White-throated sparrows are known to have either a white stripe or a tan stripe on their heads. And it turns out that the white-striped birds mate almost exclusively with tan-striped birds and vice versa, forming what are effectively 4 sexes of the white-throated sparrow.
Wow, starbelly sneech kind of situation here.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it for a second.
I'm going false. This is, I don't know. There's something too storybook about this.
Yeah, I don't like it.
You know, art imitates life. Life imitates art, which is the way that phrase goes. There's starbelly sneeches in real life.
Does snarbelly sneeches come first or birds? That's
which comes first, the sneech or the bird? I think it's true.
I'm going to stick with Laine on this one. Okay. Not going to abandon you, buddy. We're going to say no.
Well, for a long time, ornithologists thought that tan-striped sparrows were just like the younger white-throated sparrows. But in 1961, a bird scientist found that white-throated sparrows actually have two different color morphs, and that both male and female birds could display those morphs. But more importantly, mating pairs almost always consisted of a white stripe and a tan-striped sparrow, leading to the white-throated sparrow being described as having kind of four sexes. Scientists have observed some pretty clear behavioral differences between the white-striped and tan-striped sparrows, so that seems to actually indicate something. One of them is more aggressive than the other, and in the cases where two white-striped sparrows mate, the pairing is apparently not that great because they'll just fight a bunch. It's less clear if anything goes particularly wrong with two tan-striped sparrows, who are the less aggressive ones.
I feel like this is getting into the realm of like zodiac sign.
Yeah. How do you have a relationship with two Tauruses? I love that, to have like a signal that says something about your behavior that's like visible to your potential mate, and you're like, I can't hook up with another one. That would be very messy.
Yeah. It's not like we do that with our plumes.
Sometimes I look at a guy and I'm like, yeah,
I'll fight you. No. Not to put words in your mouth, but for me.
So that means that Team Tangents has 5 points and Team Field Guide to Gay Animals has 2. Not that I care. Next up, we're going to take a short break. Then time for another fierce competition.
Sari, Hank, if you were going to open a business selling something, what sort of something would you sell?
I would make fresh frozen omelets out of fart eggs. Duh.
Oh, I think Pop-Tarts that are good for you.
Okay, well, those are really great ideas, and I'm sure people will love to buy both of those things you just said. And you know what? No matter what you're selling, even if it's a bad idea like fart eggs, even if it's a confusing idea like a Pop-Tart that's good for you, no matter what you're selling, Shopify can help you sell it even better. Now, I know all about Shopify, the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business, online or in person, with the internet's best converting checkout, 35% better on average compared to other leading e-commerce platforms. But Hank, why don't you tell us about how Shopify's helped you?
You know what's wild is when you start out your e-commerce, you're not doing very much, and so you don't have to actually worry. Like there's a cutoff where you don't actually have to worry about sales tax. But then, as things grow, the states, and there are many of them in America, and also many counties and cities that have their own sales taxes. They start to say, you've sold enough that you actually have to start paying sales tax. And then you're like, that sounds extraordinarily complicated. But there are systems that plug straight into Shopify that handle this for you so that you don't have to do that, which would be miserable to have to figure out how to do it on your own. And there are many such plugins that simplify your life as a business owner with Shopify, because it is like the gold standard platform. And so there are all the people who are designing plugins for these things, just being able to like understand the back end and see how things are going, keep track. And also we've been using this platform for many years, so we can compare it to previous years and see how things have been going, with lots of really easy analytics tools that are both easy to use, very useful, and also exciting, because you get to see how things are going and feel good, like the job that we're doing is a good job and people appreciate Crash Course, and so they're buying these coins. Running a store is hard, and so having a platform that helps you do it well and works for lots of people is really great.
Wondering if you should give Shopify a try? You can sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tangents, all lowercase. That's right, $1 per month to launch your Pop-Tarts or your fart eggs or your artisanal sneakers, whatever you want. $1. All you got to do is go to shopify.com/tangents now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in or what you're trying to sell. Shopify.com/tangents, all lowercase.
SciShow Tangents is brought to you by Factor. Fresh, never frozen, chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered to your door and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. Cooking Ever since caveman times, cooking has been a revered, honored tradition, bringing families and friends closer together as they break bread. But then, what happens after you're done breaking all that bread? You got crumbly dishes, which means that you have to wash them. And guess what? Because of all that cooking, your caveman kitchen's a real mess. And since caveman times, people have hated doing the dishes and cleaning the kitchen as much as, if not more than they loved cooking.
So look, cooking is still a great, rewarding thing to do, but you don't always have time for all the prep and cleanup that goes into it, and that is where Factor can help. With Factor, you can choose from over 35 different meal options each week, and then they show up at your door, ready to heat and eat in just minutes. And when you're done, all you've got to wash is one measly fork. Easy. Dare I say, so easy, even a caveman could do it. From breakfast, lunch, and dinner to snacks in between, Factor has a wide variety of options to keep you fueled all day long. Did a little more hunting and gathering on a week, and you don't need as many Factor meals? You can adjust your order to get a little or as much as you need every week. Pause, reschedule deliveries. Factor's flexible to suit your modern Stone Age life.
And unlike cavemen, you have the internet, so you can head to factormeals.com/tangents50 and use code tangents50 to get 50% off your next Factor order. That's the code tangents50 at factormeals.com/tangents50 to get 50% off.
Welcome back, everybody. Sari has got our next game for us, and I get to play. I never get to play.
Yeah, we're tag teaming out.
The old dream team.
Team Scrub Daddy is at it again.
Boys' night on tangents. That's right.
Okay, so when it comes to sex ed, people always talk about the birds and the bees. And it turns out that both birds and insects have displayed all kinds of same-sex behaviors. So in this game of this or that, the rules are, you guess whether each behavior I describe is a bird or a bug, because I had trouble finding enough facts for straight up bees. So bird or bug is your this or that. So question 1. In this animal's mating display, 2 males actually team up and cooperate to make noises and jump around until someone else comes along, ready to be wooed. The target of this wooing can either be a female or a juvenile male, though only one moves forward with copulation if the target is willing. Is this describing a bird or a bug?
You said they jump? They jump around?
They jump around, yes. They make noises and they jump around.
I mean, that could be either.
Yeah, right. It's like there's lots of song dancing happening among
I feel like there's probably both a bird and a bug that does something that could be described this way.
I know. I mean, birds definitely do what was just described. Not to say that that's the answer, but
the real question is,
birds do that.
Like,
I've seen a bird do that.
Okay, we're gonna go with that. So, I mean, my question is, so you're walking by and you see these 2 birds or bugs doing this like courtship display, but then you only get to fuck one of them.
Yes.
Is that what's happening? Okay.
I'm gonna go. Sam, you feel birds?
I'm feeling birds now. After Owen said it the way you just said it, I feel like birds would be like they'd be like, we know what's going on. And bug would be like, I'll just eat everybody or something. They wouldn't be. Bugs ain't teamwork into that level unless there's certain kinds of bugs. So I'm going to say, I think bird. And Laine said they saw a bird do it. I believe that.
Exactly. I mean, right. What is more convincing, what Owen said or me having literally seen it?
I don't even remember what Owen said.
Well, fortunately, we're all unanimous in this. So
you're all unanimous and you're all correct.
Hey.
Yes. So your eyes, Laine, and your poetic description, Owen, are correct. This description was specifically written towards describing the blue-backed manakin, which is a little brightly colored forest bird in South America. And this behavior is technically part of lekking, and a lek, L-E-K, is an aggregation of when a bunch of male animals get together and then start dancing, singing, and whatnot to try and attract a mate. But what's interesting about this bird is that it is a cooperative display rather than competitive. So 2 male birds, kind of wingmen for each other, hooting and hollering, jumping, And then whether a juvenile male flies up or a female, then they do the same dance with them and like do this like whole pre-copulation ritual. I'm not sure if they've actually seen mounting between the male birds and the juvenile males, but it's definitely this whole courtship ritual that they go through with one another. And as we were talking about in the definition part, when you have a bunch of males in the same place, that it's hard to tell what exactly is going on. And so it's possible that that's happening, but this is only as far as we've observed. But congratulations all. You have seen a bird do it.
It's a cute bird.
Laine, is that exactly the bird that you saw do it?
Yeah, it was actually. It was 2009, and I'll never forget it.
Okay, I believed you at first.
If you'd been like slightly more straight faced, then I'd have been like, "Oh, sure."
I was like, he's in South America.
I almost said that. It was Brazil.
Really formative experience for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so question number 2. When males of this species can't find females to pair up with, they tend to give up and build a nest with another male. This increases their survival rate compared to single males, but it's not necessarily a happily ever after. If this male-male duo stumbles upon the nest of a heterosexual couple, they might cooperate to kill that male, and then one of them will mate with the female to pass along his genes. So is this assassin duo a bird or a bug?
I feel like because there's a nest, the obvious thing to say is bird, because birds do nests and bugs don't, which makes me think it's definitely bugs.
Yeah, I don't want to think about this level of bird murder also.
I also don't like bird murder.
But they're being a team, and I said bugs wouldn't do that.
You did just say that.
I mean, birds will get up to some shenanigans when it comes to home wrecking, for sure. Stealing eggs, taking over nests, baby killing.
Yeah.
But I also feel like there's the trickery involved is that we're meant to believe the nest equals bird. So it must be bug.
Unless it's one step further, which is like, it's nest. And so we're supposed to think bug, but then it's actually bird. You know what I mean?
If it's a bird, it's absolutely buck wild. If it's a bug, it's absolutely buck wild. Like it's like either way.
Do spiders count as bugs, Sari?
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's some kind of arachnid. I think they're up to something.
So, we're not going to, but we don't, even if it's not, we still get if it's bug.
Oh yeah, that's just, I'm trying to be smart. I'm trying to show up.
I'm thinking that it's a bird.
Yeah, I think the nest is maybe supposed to lead us astray, but I think it's a bird too.
I just, I can see a couple like gay villains, they meet, they court, they build a nest, then their villain arc begins. Like this, this works for birds. Yeah.
Well, it is a bug. My my friends know me too well. This is describing the Japanese termite, which do
solitary termites?
Solitary, yeah, they form nesting pairs in nesting wood. And so in this study, they collected colonies of reproductive stage termites between 2013 and 2015, and they found that these male termites weren't able to survive on their own, but those that make nests with another male survived for longer. And so this coupling behavior, they didn't mount each other, they didn't observe sexual behavior, but it was like a survival behavior to survive long enough to then pass on their genes another way.
To go and murder a man.
But it is a villain arc. They're just normal little termites, and then they find their perfect match.
This is what picture the birds murdering cooperatively.
This is what that person was talking about when she passed by on the phone and said, and they were roommates. She was referring to
talking about termites.
Yeah, I'm talking about murder.
Termites.
But Owen is right. Owen and Laine are both right that this does kind of, this debauchery happens in birds as well. A similar kind of nest stealing happens in black swans, but they don't make their own nests or kill the male. They just scope out they either form temporary threesomes with females to obtain eggs or steal preformed nests with eggs laid in them. But there isn't this like nesting together. They can't build a nest. But these male termites are real homebodies. They can make a nest together and get cozy. Mm-hmm. So question 3, final question. Sometimes reproductive behaviors can get a little rough. And when the male of this animal initiates mating, it grips so hard that it can leave 2 to 6 gouges that can get worse with repeat mating attempts. When a scientist examined hundreds of male and female specimens in 2 research collections, they found similar wounds on both, though at a lower rate in males, so indicating that mating is happening regardless of the sex. Mm-hmm. Is this a bird or a bug?
That's a bird. That's a bird.
Yeah, I don't think a bug can get 2 to 6 gouges and be okay. I don't think they're walking away from that.
I think we also we have lots of dead birds in museums. Museums are just filled with dead birds.
Like, bring out your dead birds. Yeah. Yeah.
Just the drawers and drawers and drawers of dead birds.
Okay. I trust Hank on this one. I'm going to go along with him.
I think it's a bug. I don't know why.
I also think it's a bug.
I just think that it is. And,
you two are being cagey. You know something we don't know.
The classic strategy. Well, they do know something. It is a bug.
Yes. Now tell them what we know. Tell them what we know.
You know what bug it is?
Oh, what bug is it?
It's okay if not. I wasn't sure if you actually knew. This is a fact that you knew.
I don't. I'm trying to.
I don't know.
Wow. Okay.
They're dragonflies. So dragonflies, to form this like wheel or heart-shaped mating configuration, if you search like dragonfly mating, the male's abdomen or like the end of its tail has appendages on it that grip into the head of the female or another male, leaving these gouges. And so this paper from 1991 just looked at a bunch of dragonfly specimens and found that these pinned insects, they all had similar scarring on their heads in both females, in almost all of the female dragonflies, but also a non-insignificant number of the mature male specimens as well. And so it's hard to say, again, what causes this phenomenon. Is it aggression? Is it pleasure? Is it, I don't know, mistaken mating attempts? You can't tell the sex of who you're copulating with. All of these hypotheses are hard to see because you can't really study the behavior in the wild. It's just based on these wounds that we know are mating inflicted. But yeah,
I bet they got drawers full of bugs at museums too, I guess.
Yeah, they got lots of bugs in addition to the dead birds.
Thinking about it, they got that too.
I guess that makes sense.
They're in those glass cases,
pins.
Much less space. Also, you can have so many dragonflies in a box.
True.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
And our final score is Team Tangents has come out on top with 9 to Field Guide 6.
Yeah, but I feel like we won in like a gay way.
Yeah.
Which is to not win.
And also, it does show that gay animals aren't a game to us. I mean,
that's right. And now it's time to Ask the Science Couch, where we've got a listener question for our couch of finely honed scientific minds.
At Maya Byard on Twitter asks, are there any historians will say they were best friends? I was doing air quotes that whole time on the podcast if you're listening. Situations where it was likely they were actually gay, but past scientists didn't consider it.
Oh, I mean, only. Like that was the norm, right? Like you were talking earlier about how like it's aggression.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a dominance display or a way of, instead of just hitting heads together, you just have sex. And it's like, that's the same.
Kind of thing. So often it's just obscured with the language of like establishing hierarchy, about aggression. And there are so many scientists that we learned about who like deeply hid their information. George Murray Levick studied Adelie penguins and then put all of his observations about gay penguin behavior in secret code so that people wouldn't be able to know what was actually happening, which is essentially, to say that somebody was like, oh, they were just roommates. Like, we can read between those lines. It's coded language. It's like there. But he literally had a secret code that he used when he talked about the male behavior of Adelie penguins.
He specifically used the Greek alphabet. I wrote down that example too, because it's like I feel like the quintessential one that came to my mind. So he went on an Antarctic expedition in 1910 and published 2 papers about Adelie penguins on the way back, about like the natural history of the Adelie penguin, and then Antarctic penguins, a study of their social habits. But in these 2 papers, he kind of dodged around the point and kind of made references to non-breeding wanderers or unpaired males or things like that. And he called them hooligan cocks, which I think is a great turn of phrase. Yeah. But then more recently, they found an unpublished paper, like a pamphlet called The Sexual Habits of the Adelie Penguin, that was found in the British Natural History Museum. And that's where he documented observations of sexual behaviors, which included this like homosexual sexual behaviors, as well as non-procreative sex. So that, again, that's sex for pleasure, as well as, I think, again, putting human morality onto all these things, like sexual coercion and necrophilia and other sexual behaviors that are seen as like blasphemous or obscene to humans, but they're animals. They're animals doing animal things. And he rewrote certain entries in Greek letters or things like that to physically obscure it, which is some of the most dramatic examples of covering it up.
Yeah.
Wild.
And a lot of it is hidden in language like aberration, or I'm thinking of a paper about butterflies that was titled The Lowering of Moral Standards Among Lepidoptera. And it was about gay butterflies.
or the perversion of male beetles.
Yeah, about cockchafers. Yeah.
I have some of those too. 1676, an English naturalist, Francis Willoughby, described partridges as very salacious birds, infamous for masculine venery and other abominable and unnatural conjunctions. And the quail was also written about by Linnaeus in 1758. So again, a genetics guy, as a bird no less salacious than the partridge, infamous also for obscene and unnatural lust. So, like you were saying,
what a wild thing to use the word unnatural.
Yeah.
Quails.
Just humping each other.
They must have watched too many TV shows, they listened to one too many David Bowie albums and it really got them.
Maybe it's just a phase.
We talked to one marine biologist who, she said that she studied dolphins starting in the 80s, and then, she didn't actually publish for over 25 years. Like, she started seeing same-sex, sexual behavior in the 80s in Shark Bay, Australia, and waited until 2006 before she published anything in public because of, all of this hesitation for all of these reasons. And when she did, she got a lot of pushback of people saying, what are you trying to say? What are you saying about these dolphins? Are you saying this? Are you saying that? And she was just like, I'm literally just saying, this is what they're doing. I'm out there on the boat, and this is what they're doing.
Writing a case report.
This is what they're doing. So a lot of that is still happening.
If you want to ask the Science Couch your question, you can follow us on Twitter at SciShow Tangents, or check out our YouTube community tab where we will send out topics for upcoming episodes every week. Or you can join our Patreon and then you can ask us on our Discord. Thank you to @23skidsy and at Amanda Weirs and everybody else who asked us your questions for this episode. You guys, thank you so much. Where can we listen to your podcast?
You can listen to A Field Guide to Gay Animals, which comes out June 13th on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, all the podcast places. That's where it will be. Yeah. So we're really excited about it.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your passion and expertise.
Thank you so much for having us. This was so fun.
Yeah, it was really, really fun.
If you like SciShow Tangents and want to help us out, it's super easy to do that. You can go to patreon.com/SciShow Tangents and become a patron. Get access to our Discord and our bonus content like our Minions commentary. Shout out to patron Les Aker specifically for their support. Second, you can leave us a review wherever you listen. That helps us know what you like about the show, and other people, it helps them find us. And finally, if you want to show your love for SciShow Tangents, just tell people about us.
Whoa. So it's a cult. Okay.
Thank you for joining us. I've been Hank Green.
I've been Sarah Riley.
I've been Sam Schultz.
I've been Owen Ever.
I've been Laine Kaplan-Levenson.
SciShow Tangents is created by all of us and produced by Jess Stimpert. Our associate producer is Eve Schmidt. Our editor is Seth Glicksman. Our social media organizer is Julia Buzz Pizzaio. Our editorial assistant is Taboki Chakravarti. Our sound design is by Joseph Tuna-Medish. Our executive producers are Nicole Sweeney and me, Hank Green. And of course, we couldn't make any of this without our patrons on Patreon. Thank you, and remember, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be lighted.
But one more thing. Even the Greek philosopher Aristotle was writing about gay animals way back in 350 BC in his book, History of Animals. Specifically, he noted that if there was no male pigeon around, female pigeons would sometimes mount each other and lay smaller, infertile eggs called wind eggs, which sometimes contained yolks, but sometimes were all egg white. Wind eggs actually form anytime tissue other than a yolk ends up in a bird's oviduct. And they have lots of different names, including fairy egg, witch egg, rooster egg, or fart egg.
New breakfast delight just dropped. I'll see you all at Waffle House.
This is the full translated quote from Aristotle. Another singularity in these birds is that the hens tread one another when a cock is not forthcoming after kissing one another, just as takes place in the normal pairing. Though they do not impregnate one another, they lay more eggs under these than under ordinary circumstances. No chicks, however, result therefrom, but all such eggs are wind eggs.
And that's the description on the Waffle House menu.
Yeah.